Hi, and welcome to episode 5 of The Party Line. You're here with me, Annika.
Me, Omar.
Me, Geordie.
And we, as always, recognise that this podcast was recorded on Indigenous land. This land was never ceded, and we stand in solidarity with our Indigenous comrades in their struggle against racism and capitalism.
Oh, my darling, oh, my darling, oh, my darling party line. Oh, I never will forsake thee, for I love this life of mine.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling really upset at the moment.
That's sad. Why?
Well,
Colin was not on.
Walk us through that.
I last week woke up to some really terrible news. It was all over the news, on TV, Instagram. Without warning anyone, Trump tore down the east wing of the White House.
Oh, no.
I thought this was going to be the Joy Division shirt. Without warning us, Albo stepped off the plane wearing a band T-shirt.
It's so tragic. I mean, the White House is such a sacred symbol of democracy the world over.
And I think it's obviously the worst thing that Trump has done in his presidency so far.
Yeah, if you listen to the Democrats, definitely.
What about the Kennedy Rose Garden? I heard he got rid of that.
And there's even going to be a WWE wrestling show. Which I actually really hope that Trump is part of it. Because at least, we
Falls
can
off a cage or something.
have a little bit of light humour in the sort of backdrop to the sort of destruction of, modern society. But yes, the White House has been torn apart. Trump is going to build a ballroom. Apparently, he is also going to make a sort of Arc de Triomphe style, statue or whatever you'd call it. And he's fired the board that's responsible for architectural decisions.
What, because they were against it?
Yeah, because it's like he's so gaudy.
Yeah.
Like anyone with like a right mind would realise that it is.
That's too much gold, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, what wars is he going to be celebrating? America hasn't really won any for a while.
Well, no, they've stopped them all, remember?
Oh, so it's an arc of peace.
Yeah, yeah. Because
that's...
Trump is king peace.
Oh, we can get behind that.
That's right.
Should we do a fundraising special? We can have like callers in. What do you like about America's peace efforts? I think that could work.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But yeah, it's kind of, I mean, on the one, like obviously it's good that there's, ongoing things that people are angry about the Trump regime. Apparently 2/3 of people in America are opposed to Trump's decision to tear down.
Amazing.
I mean, yeah, it's good. Is that, how strongly do they feel about that?
Very strongly.
That's good, yeah. Because you don't want like wavering defenders of the White House. You want people who are strong, passionate believers in architecture of the 18th century.
And the thing with all the Democrats that were going on about it is like, he's tearing down the people's house. This is your house. And like, where the people of America...
I feel that.
Well, yeah, I know you feel that. Omar identifies really strongly with the White House.
Always have, yeah.
But like the idea that the White House has, like in any way, this is the people's house, that American people have the right to influence what goes on in the four walls or many walls.
Well, the Oval Office is oval, so I don't know if it has 4. It might just have 1. And that's the most important room of all, right? So,
yeah.
Anyway, it's a really important issue. I promise our listeners we're going to be following this day to day.
Yeah.
We will have weekly updates.
We'll let you know when the scaffolding goes up for the ballroom.
The paint.
When we finally get the plans, the architectural drawings for the ballroom, our listeners will be first to know about it.
Totally. There is an interesting like Australian connection here when they blocked off public access to the greens above Parliament House.
What?
So during the Liberals in their last term, around the time, I can't remember which one it was, they were putting up whiteboards so that the press gallery couldn't see them when they walked to their offices and stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
The Liberals blocked off public access to the greens above. It's in Parliament House. It's covered in grass. There's grass on the top. and the architect designed it so that the people inside Parliament House would remember the people that they're serving, who are literally standing above them, standing on
If
them.
only, yeah.
Yeah, and then they were like, no,
people.
they could bomb us actually. So, yeah, there is a connection. It's loose, but also there wasn't 2/3 of Australia opposed to the AFP's fences.
But it would actually be better if 2/3 of the Australian people were opposed to the AFP's fences, because we should have a right to go and talk
Stand
to
on the heads of the politicians.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the difference here.
Riding out the party line.
And then the other question I had was, because Geordie mentioned it before, which is, Albanese is obviously getting attacked by the right at the moment for an apparently anti-Semitic T-shirt.
The song's actually ruined now because of Albanese liking it.
Exactly.
So I think that it is incredible. Like, it's so obviously cynical.
The more you think about it, the funnier it is. Like, so Susan Ley mentioned it at like a doorstop or something in Parliament. Like, no media covered it or anything, and then her staffer like clipped the video and then sent it out to the media's press gallery, to the list, to make sure
They were on a winner. He thought they were on a winner. Or they
yeah,
who
totally. That like, we've got to cover this. Susan Ley was like, oh, this fucking shirt that Albo's wearing, ridiculous. And then I saw Amy Ramakis was like, I wonder if Susan Ley has ever... Also, Susan SS Ley, who said that she changed the fucking name because of her punk era.
Yeah,
like,
witch punk.
Yeah, firstly, incredible. But, like, she was like, I wonder if Susan's ever, done anything with a Nazi brand or worn Hugo Boss or anything. So she went and did a social media troll, which apparently is the thing that all the press gallery is doing this fucking week.
I hope no one ever does a social media troll.
I cleansed mine a year ago.
Smart.
It was tragic. I thought there were some real zingers in there.
But yeah, so she did a social media troll and then found a post of Susan like celebrating her first car, which was a Volkswagen Beetle.
Shame.
Yeah, the people's car.
Yeah. I mean, it's this weird thing where this confected outrage, and the right like to complain about the woke snowflake left, having these culture wars about secondary symbols with very little connection to anything, which is overstated. Most of the culture wars that do happen are something to do with the real oppression, but then like they want to have a culture war about a band from like the 90s.
Yeah.
Earlier.
Yeah, it was like 40 years ago, I think.
Oh my God, like seriously. It's just, it's embarrassing. And it also goes to show like the role of anti-Semitism as like just a weapon against the left, and even calling Albo left sort of pains me. But in the mainstream sense, the Labor Party is still sort of vaguely centre-left. And so it's like anti-Semitism is just the weapon of choice, and they feel like they're on a winner. And in this case, they were not onto a winner, which we could have probably told them if they'd asked, but they didn't. But it just shows the confidence, despite all the hoaxes, the proven lies, the right feel like they've been given the tick of approval to use this against the left, broadly speaking, whenever they want. So it's good that the Palestine movement has pushed back against it, but it's something that's going to keep coming up. Like the Greens have faced it about when they wear keffiyehs and stuff. Like, it's pretty despicable, really.
Yeah, I think it's even like I don't think they thought that they were on to anything. I think it was just a cynical attempt to get people to talk about them again, because they have nothing. They've literally got nothing, like no policies or anything. It's just like, maybe if people hear us in the news, they'll be like, oh, they still exist. Maybe I'll give them a vote.
Yeah.
Next time.
I first heard about this controversy from like on right-wing Twitter, and the way that it seemed to me was that the Liberals just like copied a rage bait tweet from some right-winger and then turned it into their main social media strategy for the day. Absolutely terrible. But on Canberra, you've been in Canberra the last couple of days. What were you doing?
I was invited by the Australia Institute to their revenue summit to talk about tax, which is one was quite surprising. Like, yeah, I got heaps to say about tax, but also James Patterson, a Liberal senator from Victoria, discovered that I was invited, and then he did a social media troll through my Twitter feed, and found a tweet from 2023, September 2023.
What happened then?
So I just kind of established shitrentals.org, and I was like, why? I was just doing media and stuff about shitrentals.org, and then people were like, why .org? And I was like, I made a tweet being like, people are asking why .org. It's not because of some URL convention. It's because the only way to fight organised greed is, organised unions or organised violence. And then I said,
Whoops.
we'll try the first one. And then James Patterson's like, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, the Liberals are famously opposed to organised violence.
Totally, yeah.
Their policy on abolishing the military is a really good one. It's
We've
strong.
actually copied it for the Victorian Socialists program.
Yeah, and their opposition to the war on Gaza has been really good to see. And yeah, I think they oppose the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan as well.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, so that's good. I mean, it's good to have the Liberals on board on their anti-violence approach.
I just think that it's crazy that like some Liberal senator getting upset about you going to Canberra was like
That was-
Sky News, like
Yeah.
big ticket item for the
Yeah.
day. So did you see James?
No, I didn't get to.
He didn't come to the summit?
See my boy? No, he didn't.
I thought he might have wanted to meet you, shake your hand.
Probably no. He looks wet. Don't think I would want to shake that man's hand.
Yeah, I'm sure the feeling's mutual.
Yeah,
No
probably.
offense.
But it's like, it is kind of like they did. So the Australia Institute gave me a heads up. They're like, oh, by the way, we've got News Corp reaching out, calling us reckless and irresponsible for inviting you to, the people's palace.
You're literally a I
Totally.
heard you were on the
Okay. No.
The outcomes director will get angry in just a moment. But I was like, so then they told me, they're like, we're probably not going to respond, or we can say something snarky or whatever. But they reached out to you? And I was like, they usually don't reach out to me. Anyways, a couple minutes later, the journalist from the Daily Telegraph reached out.
That's nice of them.
Yeah, it's a change. We'll take it. It's something. And then, she was writing down all my comments and stuff, and I said heaps. And then she just the comments that were reported that I said were just the weakest ones. Like I said a bunch of stuff like, if James is trawling through my social media, he's probably come across an 8-minute video of me reading verbatim from Trotsky on why Marxists oppose individual terror. He must have missed that one on political violence, and just a bunch of other stuff. And then she said, she asked me about 3 tweets. I was like, I stand by that one. I stand by that one. This one's clearly a joke. Like the idea that we will also try political violence when I'm talking about a fucking website, like clearly a bit tongue in cheek. And then it was reported as like, Jordan says his comments were tongue-in-cheek. It's like, no, actually I stand by pretty much all of them except that one, which was a joke.
Yeah. I mean, just a tip to all the would-be interviewees out there, ask for your questions in writing and submit responses in writing to hostile media.
Yeah, it's just I'm a bit lazy. I would have not responded to the email probably, but should have done that. And then I also said a comment about like, who the fuck is James to say I'm a supporter of political violence when he's been wholeheartedly supporting the genocide in Palestine.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then that one didn't get published.
Yeah, they always do you dirty, don't they? What happened at the tax summit?
Lots of things, actually. One of the things that happened was while I was in one of the sessions, one of the comms people from the Australia Institute actually told me, like, can you come outside? We've just heard that, the Australian is trying to do a doorstop for you while you're here. We don't know what about, but apparently they're aware of it. And I was like, oh, that's exciting. Like, why? Probably about a tweet or whatever. And then I was like, kind of excited for that. I was going to be like, don't you have a T-shirt to talk about something? But that didn't happen. But yeah, it was a summit about revenue with a bunch of economists, a bunch of NGOs, talking about, you know, why do we tax nurses more than we do the biggest companies in Australia? And we should change that. And yeah, I agree. I think that's sure, why not?
Yeah, the Australian Institute's sort of like a Labor left or sort of greensy kind of Labor-y progressive think tank, right? They put out some good reports. It's
Totally,
sort of,
yeah.
It's not super like impactful, but the research they do is quite helpful.
Yeah, they're probably the only think tank in this country that actually opposes like neoliberalism, believes that the government should intervene and stuff like that. They're more Greens aligned, I would say. Definitely not like they're anti. Like one of the questions in the summit was like, why don't we get superannuation involved in our housing crisis and that kind of stuff? And the co-CEO just shut it down. And he's like, I don't think we should have, you know, corporations who are interested in increasing their members' profits involved in fixing this crisis, that's a great position. Like, and it's correct. Yeah. Like we can't, the problem is the commodification. So why the hell should we have more of that? Particularly, like, you know, we're seeing the direction superannuation is going in, investing $1.44 trillion in America. Like, this is fantastic. Yeah. So, but yeah, they're redistributive in terms of their policy on tax and stuff like that. And they put out some really good research on actually migrants aren't the cause of all of our problems. The rich are. So they're like definitely the best think tank that exists in this country at the moment. Still could be better, but yeah. Yeah,
cool. And so were there specific policies they were looking at advocating for or something, or what was the sort of thrust?
Definitely. So there was a bunch of presentations from economists about like, this is who we tax, working people primarily. This is who we don't tax, comparing Australia's taxation policies with the rest of the world and the OECD specifically, and say, you know, our over-reliance on, you know, taxing working people and not big corporations and stuff. They're big on taxing oil and gas, you know, diesel credits and stuff like that. Big onto the renewables. And there was, you know, some they had someone from Fortescue Metals or whatever they're called, and then the CEO of Weld Australia, which is like the pig body for all the manufacturing companies.
Why were they invited?
Well, because they their proposal was that actually it's too expensive for us to get rid of or to move to renewable power.
Should we help them out?
Literally, because of the diesel credit that we get. So the government is actually incentivizing us to not move to renewables. So we should get rid of the diesel credit, which is like, that's defendable. Yeah, absolutely. We should get rid of that. We shouldn't.
Do they want a green credit?
Probably. That wasn't talked about.
Okay.
But the emphasis on the Fortescue proposal was on, like, you know, we're about profitability here. So yeah, it was like, it was a fine proposal. I agree with it. I think we should get rid of the diesel credit. If it was me running a fucking like revenue summit, I probably on principle wouldn't invite the CEO of Weld Australia and someone from Fortescue. Totally.
I mean, the thing about income tax is so interesting. There was this big hue and cry about the inflation linking of the $3 million. We talked about that last week. You know, this mythical idea that we're all going to have $3 million of super one day. But there's our income taxes are not inflation linked. So what, like the lowest bracket, is it still 16,000?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. Like that was seen as like, you know, almost a livable wage way back when. And it hasn't been increased. So that is actually meaning that very poor people, very poor and working class people in Australia are paying way more tax than that applies to every bracket. So there's no support for linking that to inflation, because all the economists know and the Liberals know and Labor know that would result in a huge hit to government revenue. And yet there was such a big song and dance about the $3 million threshold being like so constraining. It applies to like 0.5% of the population. So it actually is true that the amount of income tax the government's raising is quite a lot. And because services are degenerating, there is frustration with that. And so it's actually ridiculous that the government revenues are being held up in this way by us. And you got companies like QANTAS paying zero. So there really does need to be a massive shift in the government tax base. But no one talks about that. They all talk about GST, you know.
Totally, yeah. And that was a theme. It was like even comparing like to the OECD, our taxation based on people's income is far higher than the OECD. But you know, our GST is lower and all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, like France is discussing a wealth tax, and like this is like we're lagging behind on like actually we should tax the fucking rich finally. But like the behind all of this, like this is we're tinkering around a fucking broken system. But yeah, we're like I'm sure we've got proposals. we could you know make the broken system a little bit better if we tax people properly.
And I mean, because it was the like Hawke government that sort of set up the modern kind of like taxation system in Australia. And as far as I understand it, was about sort of reducing the tax on company profits, and sort of a lot of the burden gets shifted to, you know, working class people, working people, and companies get all of these different write-offs, different incentives, and it's all in the name of like boosting productivity, boosting profitability, but then obviously like
it trickles down.
Well, yeah, but the wealth inequality gap in Australia, it's just like since then, not just because of the taxation system, obviously, also the attacks on unions as well, but the amount of money that goes to the top of society just increases and increases and increases, and that gap just, you know, what doesn't anyone ever talk about closing that gap? Like it's not even a consideration that there should be more money in the system going to ordinary people. It's like that isn't a discussion that the government would ever have.
Yeah, totally. And like this is a room full of economists, and like they're all on the same page about, you know, the tax concessions and stuff to property investors and mining companies and everything. But we're like, that's all we talked about was like we shouldn't have this, like these concessions and stuff like that. And in one of the questions that was asked to me was about like, what would you do if you were the minister? And I was like what's one thing you would do? And I was like, well, like putting aside the question of a socialist, you know, in an executive position running capitalism in this country, like I wouldn't be talking about, you know, whether or not we should get rid of concessions to like, you know, people who generate their wealth by exploiting other people. I would be talking about like one, jailing them, but like if not, like how much we should punitively tax those people, not how, like whether or not we should get rid of their concessions. Like we should be redistributing their wealth. Like, and now we're just, you know, like we all agree that we should get rid of these stupid little things that we're giving them. No one's talking about anything further than that. Like every single economist agrees that, you know, things like negative gearing, the capital gains tax exemption should go. Even, you know, conservative economists and whatever. That's even if we did that, it's not going to get rid of all of our crises and stuff. But this is the thing that we're hung up on. It's like, who cares? Like, move on, do it, and move on. We've got other things to do. Yeah,
and the problem is that there's this narrative put forward that you have to have low corporate taxes because otherwise they would just go somewhere else. And it's like, I don't think mining companies can go somewhere else.
Well,
I think you'll find they're quite bound to the country, and the same is like with a whole lot of stuff like QANTAS. You know, someone's got to fly between Melbourne and Sydney, and I think QANTAS have to do that. So I don't think they're going anywhere if we start taxing them. So you know, you can go through the list. So, but there's this premise. So 30%, like that's the current corporate tax rate. That's seen as too high by some, and this talks about lowering it, increasing the GST. Always is seen as the solution to raising taxes. But then, like in the old days, Like in America, the tax rate for decades was like 90%.
Totally, yeah.
Corporate tax rate, 90%.
Yeah.
Under Eisenhower, a Republican.
Hello, interjection from editing Jordan here. Omar incorrectly says that the corporate tax rate was around 90%, and in the US it was actually the top income tax rate, which was around 90% from 1943 to 1963, 20 years.
You know, and that's because back then the American state knew that to do things you needed revenue, and corporations are filthy rich. And you don't have to be a leftist to think, you know, we can use that in other ways more effectively than they can. But there's this sort of dogma now that that's impossible, and so the services degenerate, the taxes on working class people go up, GSTs and VATs as they're called in Europe, like they keep being expanded. So I think, like, obviously, you know, we need to get rid of capitalism as a whole, but there are actual things that could be done now to fix our declining services, which I know we're going to talk about, and you know, actually mean that we can have a functioning society. So it's a deliberate starvation of government revenues from one avenue, and then a deliberate parasiticness on the working class in another avenue. That's current government policy.
Yeah, and on the corporate tax stuff, because that was a proposal to, you know, reduce the corporate tax. The Productivity Commission commissioned a study, 2 studies actually, about reducing corporate taxes relative to the OECD. Australia's corporate tax is quite high.
30%, right?
30%, even though it's 30%. Ridiculous. But the economists in the room were like, well, it should be quite high because we have an educated workforce. We've got all the things that, like, mining companies can't go to other countries to exploit their natural resources because they exist here, not in other countries, like they threatened to do when Labor in Queensland introduced the mining royalty thing. I forget what it's called. They threatened to go elsewhere, which, by the way, is terrorism. Like, we should be, I don't know, taxing people who threaten to move capital to other countries.
Yeah, blackmailing the whole country. Yeah.
Totally. Like, they should be, like, we should just seize their resources and nationalize it. But they didn't move through on those threats, come through on the threats, and the Liberals have kept that royalty tax in Queensland. But the studies pretty much said, like, yes, there would be an increase in GDP if there, you know, if we did reduce the tax, but the increase would be through foreign multinational companies, not to the you know, working people, and it would look like Ireland's GDP did in 2008.
That's right.
Which is, like, they had a massive GDP because, you know, the corporate tax rate was quite low, but people were dying. People couldn't afford to survive because that GDP doesn't go to people. It goes to, you know, international conglomerates, which are fantastic. We need more of that. Like, it's a terrible proposal.
Yeah, they just set up offices and claim tax haven status, basically.
Totally.
That's what Apple did. They moved to Ireland.
Yeah. There was a really good chat about, I think it was like BHP or Rio Tinto, and Richard Dennis was like, these people are investing billions and billions of dollars every year. Their profits are zero. They're paying no tax. But for some reason, the marketing team in Singapore is making squillions of dollars.
That's right.
Who knew?
Because they sell iron ore to themselves.
Yeah. Who knew that the real money wasn't in all of the oil and gas and stuff that they're extracting. It's in their marketing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the other, like, the question of revenue for the government ties into the excuses that they make about why they can't do XYZ thing. We need to increase taxes on ordinary people so that we can increase government revenue, and then maybe we'll be able to solve some of the issues in society. But you know, obviously they're not interested in taxing the companies in the way that they should. And I mean, I guess I think what we're talking about is the different layers of inequality that exist in our society. The tax system as one, where ordinary people are the victims of it, not the beneficiaries of it. But then, you know, you go from the tax system to day-to-day life and the way that that's getting harder. I mean, the thing in the news today has been about how energy prices have just massively gone up, and that's been one of the main inflationary things behind the rise in inflation. like the energy bills are just incredible, and part of it is because the government rebates have come off. But how the rebates a solution in the long term? They're not. It's just the government paying companies
Yeah, that's right.
instead of forcing the companies to put their prices down.
Totally.
Like, that would just be, why is this a thing that has to be a massive profit producer?
Yeah, why are we subsidising their profits?
And so the government just gives all of this money to private companies to make money off of us, and the need to put gas heating on so that we don't freeze in our crap houses that aren't built for Australian summers or Australian winters.
And they're going to lower the standards for the future houses.
Yeah. So I guess the next sort of layer of it is the housing question, which obviously, Geordie, you talk a lot about and have been talking a lot about. But it's the same, like a sort of the relationship between the tax and the housing is, and the energy, all of it is that the main question has to be, how do we increase profitability and profit making of businesses? And so housing can't be fixed in the current framework because they have to make money off of this basic necessity.
Yeah. And like with energy, there's 4 layers of privatization. So there's the generation, the wholesaling, the retail, and the poles and the wires. So there's 4 different sets of corporations that want to make a cut from when energy is produced to when it's sold. So that's, a big part of the profiteering that goes on. With housing, it's the same. It's like developers need to make their cut, then the landlords who invest want to make a cut, and the real estate agencies want to make a cut, and
The builders.
the builders. So everyone's making profit off the system going up and up and up. I saw a report in the SMH that the average price, the median price, that is the middle price in Sydney, is now $1.75 million for the median, the middle house. So
Which means you need a household income of around $350,000 a year.
Yeah. And you probably get a mortgage of like 1.5 mil or something. Like, these are just extraordinary amounts of money. And Labor continues to insist that they want them to keep going up. Like it's
a good thing if housing prices go up.
Yeah, it's such a broken system. And there's this sort of idea that everybody with a house kind of wants the prices to go up, which I think it's hard to know. There's not really polling data about that, or maybe there is, and I don't know it. But the thing is, if you're just owning your own home, there's no benefit to prices going up because you're buying and selling in the same bloody market. So you might have a house that's worth whatever, but then when you want to buy a different house or a different apartment or whatever, you're just going to spend all that money again anyway. So it doesn't benefit working class people at all. The only people who benefit from it are the people with more than one, the people building 3 on a block that what used to be 1, like the big developers building entire suburbs without providing any amenities or roads or whatever. Like, they're the real ones who benefit from it. And the banks, of course, making huge interest repayments of these huge loans they're giving. So it's a wonderful, virtuous cycle of profiteering for some. But for the rest of us, it's just like, I don't know, like, if you read that story and you're a young person today, like, it must, especially if you're living in Sydney, like, it must just be like, oh my God, my life is going to be shit living hand to mouth for months at a time, forever.
Totally, yeah. And then the solutions posed by this government are, let's increase house prices a little bit and make sure that, you're in a mortgage that you can't afford for at least 30 years.
Yeah. And lower the standards.
Totally. And those prices can still go up in that case.
And we talked a couple of weeks ago about the 5% deposit scheme that the government brought in, and that led to an immediate rise in house prices. Like, that's one of the things that's been responsible for the recent very big jump that's happened across the market, because it's like the profiteering just kicks into overdrive, and all of these real estate agents and whatever see that there's about to be more people entering into the market, which means that they can have more space to increase their prices. And in the midst of all of this, the Victorian Labor government is bringing in new sort of legislation to mean that there can be less opposition to new builds. which, you know, on one level, some of the opposition to new builds can be like the Brighton opposition, where it's like wealthy suburbs don't want apartment blocks because it ruins their vista or whatever.
Me coming into my suburb. Yeah.
But some of the opposition to new builds are very valid because they are these mass apartment blocks with tiny apartments that you can't live in, you can't raise a family in. They don't build car parks. So that means that, you know, whatever, there's no green spaces. The requirement for social housing is like a tiny proportion of it has to be put aside for social housing to buy, but then they don't, you know, so some of the opposition that people have is valid. So it's not an answer. It's just actually creating more space for developers, you know, cowboy developers, to come in and just do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, one of our comrades in Sydney, Declan, did a really funny video about the council plan to increase housing density in the inner west, and they were allocating 2% of the new housing as affordable, not even social and definitely not public, but affordable, which just means 80% of market rates. So 2%. So like you bulldoze houses with trees and green spaces sort of inherently, and you replace it with like an apartment block that uses every inch of the property, not a single, like all these new builds, there's not a single tree or anything on the property. It's just like a pot with grass on the front, you know, and maybe they put a tree on the front nature strip instead of a parking spot. Yeah. Like, of course people oppose that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What positive benefit does that bring to a community? Like,
yeah,
it's disgusting.
And in South Australia, the Malinowskis Labor government is introducing laws that make it legal to build developments without individual bathrooms.
My God. So they're just big dorm rooms.
Big, massive dorm rooms.
Oh my God.
Like that, that's dystopian.
It is.
Because plumbing is like one of the most expensive parts of building a house.
Totally. So. It's like it's the bathrooms are the problems. And we can make the bedrooms smaller now. We can make them like 2 meter squared bedrooms. But also you're a conservative if you oppose this.
Yeah.
Do you remember like it's probably a decade now, but it's like there was a real trend for a while about tiny homes and how tiny homes were the answer to the housing crisis.
Environmentally friendly.
Yeah. But so there was all this all this campaigning done about, you know, making it more like legal basically to have a smaller square footage and less amenities and the house to still be legal so that you can put it on the market. And Tony Abbott agreed, like the Tony Abbott government did that. And what it meant was the apartments became smaller because it was legally fine for them to not have all of these different amenities. And it's just like...
On the other hand, we have seen like hundreds of thousands of tiny houses are springing up everywhere. So that was a really positive reform for the people of Australia.
But the state governments are doing that all over the country, being like, we're making it easier to subdivide and, you know, build a granny flat that doesn't meet any of the regulations because they're exempt from the regulations, and then sell that house as if like this is the answer.
Yeah.
Like, fuck's sake.
It really is an argument for socialist politics because like you said before about tax, you know, these things now, they get to a certain point where it's so hard to address within the framework that's been established. And it's why no one talks about anything that would actually address it. You know, no one is talking about, you know, even the Greens mostly don't talk about like massive public housing built by a public developer.
Well, they did do that one, fortunately.
They've taken that up.
Yeah, that was...
Since you've started campaigning about it, I think.
It was definitely after I started making shitty videos on TikTok. But lots of things have happened after I started doing that.
I don't know. I think traditionally they've been all about social housing. I think you can take some credit for that, publicizing public housing. But yeah, so that like dealing with the root cause of these problems is never talked about. So it's always positioned as YIMBY versus NIMBY.
Yeah.
And these like astroturfed like real estate agent campaigns of like young rich people saying, I really want this amazingly ugly tower block in my area so I can buy 4 of them to retire on, you know, like who believes this shit, you know? I saw an article by Chip Legrand,
our boy,
our favorite journalist, saying Jacinta Allen's like doing really good work by lowering all the standards. Because the main barrier to affordable housing in Melbourne has been nosy neighbours interfering with
development applications.
With home renovations. Like
does Chip Legrand like Well, obviously not. It's just he has this hate for ordinary people. Like, it's just incredible. Like,
he's just got a love for big business, I think. And how can I creatively justify, like, as if it's like neighbors worrying about people's kitchen reno that's like stopping this. You know?
That's the problem.
The thing is, people hate when builders rock up, build an ugly apartment block or, shitty mass-produced unit system that overlooks their yard, so they have no privacy or whatever. Aren't forced to build trees or shade or anything. People don't like that. That's got nothing to do with just like your average punter like fixing up their bathroom.
They've done all these like there's actually hard science, which is about how far back should the house be from the sidewalk. Do we call that in Australia?
Footpath.
Yeah, footpath.
Sidewalk's American, isn't
American.
it?
Yeah.
How far back the house should be from
you guys are really, we gotta start.
I don't even
some
think they
basic
actually have
education.
footpaths or sidewalks in America. It's just like driveway road.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
But there's like studies about how far back should the house be from the road, and then how close should the front door be from your neighbour's front door, to encourage a sense of like home and safety, but also community, to mean that you can talk to your neighbour over the fence. Like how many trees there has to be on a street to provide cooling. How big a house has to be to like provide space for people to feel comfortable and whatever. Like there's actually down to the centimetre like data about the town, like what kind of cities, what kind of neighborhoods that we need. Like you could imagine if we had a world where people actually got to make those decisions on the basis of like meeting human fulfillment, meeting human need, then we could have such beautiful societies actually. But we can't, because Chip Legrand would prefer that a property developer gets to build a disgusting concrete block with shared bathrooms.
Yeah.
I'm sure
and
Chip
shared
is
kitchens.
actually lobbying for developers to build huge apartments
Right
on all
next to
three
his
sides
house.
of his mansion in Turrak, or wherever the fuck he lives.
Definitely.
I'm sure that's happening.
Wow.
But there's
If you're listening, Chip, prove otherwise.
Yeah, it felt right in. Say something.
Our email's in our bio.
We will
'cause none of
definitely
us
read
can
it out.
remember what it is.
We will definitely read it out, Chip Legrand, if you're listening.
But it's also like, it raises a point, like, the planning is kind of fucked now. We are ignoring all of that kind of good stuff, good studies and everything. And if we look at the new like greenfields developments in the outer suburbs, it's like one road in, fucking single story,
Single lane
disgusting,
road,
black roofed like homes with no amenities or anything. And like, I put it down to the fact that there's no competing, like there's no conflict anymore. It's just like we've created a world where literal towns are built entirely for profit. And at least in the past, there was some kind of competition there. We had like public departments, like Department of Public Works or whatever, that was like, actually, no, there are these standards. Also, we don't want mass public opposition to, you just profiting from us. And, we would oppose things like that. And now there's just none of that anymore.
Yeah, because the competition that exists is how cheaply can...
Yeah, how much profit can we make? Yeah.
How cheaply can the developer build the building, sell it off? And the other part of it is that they just build them so badly. Like there's a YouTube guy who goes around with...
Site inspections.
Yeah. And he has like a monitor, and he puts it up against the house, and to see where all of the water is pooling inside the house, because the builders have just put it up. The warranty on the builder's warranty only lasts for a couple of years.
And they'll be bankrupt anyway. They won't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And so it's like, what kind of competition could there be? Well, it could be what you pointed to, which is public providers, the state, making it so that they pull the bottom down on prices on everything. Like, they should have to, the private market should have to compete with that. Or, get rid of the private market. Because both with energy and with housing, there used to be, government institutions that did this. The SEC, which was a public, like, government provider of electricity, and then the public housing, department, which built high quality public housing that working class people could live in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just all been destroyed. And then the Victorian government brought in a fake version
Yeah.
of the SEC and just repeated the branding to make people think that they had done something when they hadn't. Like,
Hey, on a similar note, the healthcare system's in crisis, and there's been like a big campaign about it. It's in the really inner city, so I haven't paid it as much attention to it as I should. But are you guys on top of it? Like they're shutting a bunch of health clinics or something?
yeah.
CoHealth.
Yeah. So CoHealth is like they describe them as wraparound services. So in community, you can have access to, blood tests, scans, psychological services. There's postnatal
Regular GP stuff
Yeah, exactly.
as well. Sorry.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
addition to the
And so these services that are really, really vital to the community, and they're offered basically for free. So people in the community can have access to what is very high quality health and community care, servicing thousands and thousands of people. And the CoHealth board has voted to just end it. They just voted, we've got a funding gap, and so
So it's not a government service provider.
No, it's government funded, like bulk build kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And it's got a really interesting history, CoHealth, because it was an amalgamation of a bunch of different community services. And then prior to that was part of a sort of had its like very past history had been about a dispensary system. So, this is like in the 1900s, providing in community medical access that sort of previously hadn't existed. In the last century, so in the last 50 years, it had previously been a more like a co-op sort of service. So I think in the
Member board.
1970s, you could pay $2 to become a member of I think it was the Fitzroy Health Service or something like that. You got a T-shirt that said, "I own a health clinic," and then you could vote on the things that the service did. And it was very much aimed at, we need care that's not just about the emergency room. It's not just about, acute health problems, but it was about how do we create health that's
Public health sort of.
for the community and meeting people's needs. And then, now in just a couple days before Christmas, people are going to lose access to this quite vital health system.
15,000 people. 15,000 people, their first port of call in for anything will be the emergency department. And these are people, like a significant portion of refugees, migrant communities. And it's been interesting to see, like Labor has been like, oh, we're so disappointed in the CoHealth board for this decision. Like, bro,
Give them the money.
We're actually the government.
what do you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, but also like on the converse, like this is a 100% corporate board that has tried to expand their profits by expanding too fast all over Australia, and has been like, oh, we're not making enough money, so we are going to shut down these 3 centres, and there's 2 more as well that aren't CoHealth that are about to shut down as well. And like, this is their fault as well. And our position is this is both Labor and the CoHealth board's fault for doing this. And the Greens are being like, the CoHealth board can do no wrong. They're fantastic. This is just Labor's fault. It's like, no, you're both bad. And people are going to die because of this decision, and both of you should be held responsible. Preferably, people shouldn't die, actually.
Yeah.
But they will if we do nothing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a really interesting article in the Marxist Left Review from a couple of years ago about the history of the health system in Australia. A woman called Phoebe did some really good research, and there was actually a proposal to have GPs be employed by the government directly.
Totally, yeah.
And or at least some of them. And the AMA at the time was like a viciously anti-communist organization, and communism at that time meant communism in the USSR sense, but then also the Labor Party. And so there was a huge campaign against that, which was successful, and against the PBS, which was not successful. So the AMA opposed cheap medicine because they said you weren't going to give cheap medicine for all the medicines, you were going to pick some, and therefore you were actually playing favourites, and that was government intervention into the market, and they opposed that because if you start with cheap medicines, what next? Cheap healthcare.
Yeah.
So the AMA was a really consciously right wing, you know, but even to this day, like the fact that GPs are small businesses and you know the people who own them like are trying to make money, and we know like you know doctors, they're being squeezed, but like they're not like strapped for cash, you know, like they're surviving, so they're making economic decisions on the basis of wanting to maintain a certain status. So the government in the short term probably just needs to subsidize them to make sure they don't quit, but in the medium term there needs to be a solution that isn't like that just guarantees doctors, no, you don't need to buy a clinic, no, you don't need to participate in this despicable capitalist game. We'll give you a job for life. It'll be well paid. You'll be in a union. You'll be, you know, defended by your workmates collectively, and you'll be able to provide free healthcare to the public. Like that's what we need because, like subsidizing some. If this company's actually for profit, I didn't realize that. It's not just like
it's a not for profit, but it's like you know the CEO earns a fair bit of money.
Yeah. So they're running on a corporate model.
Yes.
Okay, even if they're not.
Yeah, and it's a corporate board.
Exactly. So you're paying people money to do fuck all like other corporations. So you know, then it needs to be a different. Like they're always going to make wrong decisions.
Yeah.
These people, and their goals are different to the goals of the community. Yeah,
their goals are to expand and like profit without actually paying tax kind of thing. So it goes to salaries and stuff. But like the idea that like the national health. Like you know, public, like GPs be public servants kind of thing. There was an attempt to do that. The Labor Party did propose something like that.
They did, yeah.
And then there was an amendment to the Constitution that can't amount to civil conscription. We can't nationalise it. But there is nothing that prevents us from establishing, you know, publicly run and funded healthcare facilities, just like there's nothing that prevents us from establishing a public bank, like a state bank or a Commonwealth bank or whatever. But like, since whenever Labor loses something like that, they just never try, you know, the other things that are available to them, like this. Like we should establish a fucking CoHealth that is publicly run, publicly funded, and not, you know, a subsidized private clinic that we just spend heaps and heaps and heaps of money on. So that some, you know, CEO and corporate board can make a bunch of money.
The other thing is that the shutting down of CoHealth is going to mean that less people are able to access care at the point of community, which means that they're less able to access affordable healthcare, which means that the emergency system, the emergency department, is going to have more and more presentations, and more people are going to miss things like, you know, breast cancer or skin cancer or things that
heart issues,
things that could have been solved to mean that people were able to live full and happy lives with minimal intervention. But all of that gets taken away because if you don't have CoHealth, you have to go to a bulk billing super GP clinic where you get 7 minutes with a doctor who writes you a, you know, prescription for antibiotics and sends you on your way. So it fucks people at so many different levels. It fucks the community at so many different levels, and is just like such a terrible way of approaching the healthcare system.
And you're lucky to get 7 minutes, you know, like, because I moved to Thomastown not that long ago and we're looking around for a GP, they're all full. And so we went to one of those super health clinics at Epping Plaza and it's, you know, 45 seconds. You go in, 4 questions.
What do you want?
Here's what you get. And then you're out. And there's just a line of like 100 people out the front. And it's a different doctor every time. And it's like, you know, how can these people understand anything about what's going wrong with you? The whole business model is based on getting as many people through the door as possible, lying and say they had 7 minutes and then getting the revenues. But I should have said before, because there is a tier system, like a class system within among doctors, you know, like there's the people who own and the people who just work for them. And the owners very much invested in expanding and profiteering and they become like proper, you know, small capitalists themselves, some of them with multiple clinics and stuff. So it's just the whole thing's fucked. Like it's so obvious what needs to happen, but again, it requires investment. And the social, like I'm not surprised it's an NGO that runs this thing. Like they run all the services now. The government barely runs anything. It's just all outsourced. And then when something goes wrong, blame the CEO of CoHealth rather than like the department that basically runs this health institution anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, you go, John.
So polite.
Thank you. Yeah, like the thing is, like if these do shut down, like if there is an interruption to services, that like our hospital system will collapse entirely, because this is 15,000 people that need to go to the emergency department because there are no bulk billing GPs anywhere that are accepting new patients.
Yeah, that's right.
Like this is going to destroy us, and then people will die.
Well, it's like America, you know, where they say if you're sick, you just have to go to emergency.
Well, and that,
because you can't go to a doctor. There's
exactly.
No such thing as bulk billing there.
And that's the thing. It takes one, like it shouldn't rely on the goodwill of some fucking NGO for us to have, like, you know, the illusion of universal healthcare come shattering, like it just gets shattered, like that, because that's what's happening. It's it's this, you know, the board's goodwill that this place is still running. Like,
because it's the thing that Albanese is like, you know, he pulls out his Medicare card and it's like this is the only thing that, you know, an Australian needs to access.
What a lot of shit.
It's like they spit in our face every time they do it, because who has that experience? I don't know a single person who's had the experience that just their Medicare card has allowed them to get the health care that they require. One of the things...
if you wait like 5 years for a blood test, you can you can get it for free.
But because the other thing is that the doctors who work at CoHealth and all of the staff that work at CoHealth will lose their jobs as well. And these are the people that are providing the services. There was a meeting in Collingwood in response to all of this, which by all accounts was just incredible. It was a meeting called by the City of Yarra, but 500 people showed up to the meeting. They were expecting like 100 or something like
that's
that.
Huge.
There was 100 people who were outside who couldn't get in. They had to the meeting started and the people outside were like, we can't hear, and like demanded that they get like a speaker system put outside so they could participate in the meeting. And all of these, it was just like everyone is furious. It's like furious anger, righteous anger at the fact that people in the community are going to lose access. And then there was another meeting that happened, I think in Kensington, that had another 200 people at it. So there's been a real community mobilisation around this issue. Some members of Victorian Socialists in the Victorian Socialist Melbourne district, and then also the... Richmond.
As well.
Yeah, as well. And then also the Victorian Socialists, like Socialist Workers Caucus crew, the healthcare workers. What are they called? What's their crew called?
That's a good question.
Oh, we'll put it in the show notes.
Socialists in healthcare?
Socialists in healthcare. They've called a protest out the front of, is it Sarah Whitty's office?
Yeah. On the 8th of November at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Definitely get there. I'll be there.
So it's good. Like, this is what we need. We need community members linking up with, you know, socialist groups, people who want to actually say that we're not going to actually let this stand. You can't close a healthcare clinic 6 days before Christmas and expect people to just take it lying down. Yeah,
because, you know, I kind of referred to it as the inner city before, but these are working class people.
Yeah.
You know, rich people don't need to go to some free NGO clinic to get treated. They can afford to pay the co-payments at a normal clinic. So this is working class people who are losing primary health care. Really important issue. And there still are lots of working class people who manage to survive in these places, either in public housing or social housing or remnants of old rental agreements and so on. So yeah, really important to get out to that one. And these things can be stopped, you know, like in Richmond, they tried to shut down Richmond Secondary College in the 90s and we won against that. And Gary Foley was involved and some of our comrades are involved. Like, you can win on these things when you fight strongly in a united manner, in a disciplined collective manner. And there's clearly a lot of people with a lot of incentive to do so. But it's really good that our comrades took a lead. My understanding is they proposed that to the meeting, which is good, because obviously a meeting is a good starting point, but meetings alone are not going to get the results here.
Yeah, and there will be likely an escalation called on the 8th of November. So
Like for a subsequent date or for that date?
yeah, for a subsequent date.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, get there.
You heard it here first.
Breaking news.
Yeah, Party Lines, getting the scoop. Chip Legrand, reach out. We'll tell you more about it.
Don't call us, Chip.
Yeah, no, call us. It'll be fun.
Maybe he could be next week's secret caller.
Yeah. We'll offer him a slot. I know other left groups have.
Oh,
Just before we wrap up, I do just want to do a couple of shout outs. One to Annika for finally setting up the Patreon. We've been advertising it for 4 weeks now, but it is up and you can subscribe. And
This is why socialists can't manage the economy.
Yeah, don't put us in charge.
don't say that.
But then
Just because you suck at this.
but also we have one Patreon subscriber.
Woo.
Not going to name any names, but we think that's a pretty fair representation of where we're at.
Yep.
Probably what we deserve at this point. We are working to get better, but if you do want to support the podcast, feel free to subscribe. It does help us out. We have had to spend some money to set this thing up, and so
Yeah, how good are these microphones?
yeah,
David?
exactly. So if you want us to continue developing our decor, our audio, our jokes, the quality of content in general, then please consider subscribing.
So we've talked today about Australian capitalism and the way that at the heart of everything is profit making, profits for the rich and powerful corporations, and the way that that impacts basically every sphere of your life.
Yeah, so like the taxation system, takes from working class people to give to the rich, literally. The housing system does the same. And then the healthcare system fails us when we're at our most vulnerable. Like it's totally messed up. We haven't even talked about aged care or childcare. The scandals around both those things where, people who have no capacity to defend themselves are just at the mercy of these disgusting profiteers. Like this is the reality of Australian capitalism. And it's worth going back to the fact that Australia is like the richest or one of the richest countries on earth, like would be in the top 5 in a general kind of ranking. So if that's what capitalism looks like here, there's something seriously wrong with our world.
Totally. Yeah. If someone's profiting off the fact that you are sick, that's just fucked.
And so we're socialists, and so we think that what the world should look like is human needs being met. And that means that corporations shouldn't make a profit off of our sickness, off of our need to live in a home, off of our need to feed ourselves and, put the lights on inside the house. So we think that we need to build a socialist movement that can fight against the wealth in society going to the top instead of to the rest of us. So thanks for following the party line. Remember to like and subscribe and share with your friends and help us build a system that we can actually live in.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. Like, take the next step, go from being a listener to an activist and an organizer, because this world needs it. We've got Trump in America. We've got the Liberals here. We've got One Nation on 15%, the most recent polling, and then Labor, as we've talked about, just sitting back and watching as our living standards crumble. So, yeah, we need you. The working class needs you. Our world needs you. The people in Gaza, 100 people dead last night, like they need us. So, yeah, time to take the next step and join.
Yeah. And if you haven't joined, if you have, get more involved, reach out to someone, ask who your branch coordinator is, or something like that. Just reach out and let's get started.
Totally.
Bye, guys.
Ciao.
Oh, my darling, oh, my darling, oh, my darling party line. Oh, I never will forsake thee, for I love this life of mine.